Hello there, and welcome to The High Ground, a Doof bonus content show where we are bringing life back into the Jurassic Park franchise. I'm your Tyrannosaurus host, Reuben Morehouse.
And I'm your Velociraptor host, Elliot Diebold.
And I'm your Compsognathus host, Georgia Diebold.
It's 2 movies in a row where that title's actually held up.
Affectionately named Compies in this one. I was like, oh, that's
Compies,
cute.
right, that's what they are. Yeah.
I think Our Little Bastards is cuter and more accurate, though.
I don't know about cuter.
Jurassic Park 3, that's what we're here to talk about. No subtitles, no goofing around on this one.
I love this movie. Like, even try, because, you know, as I've said, this is the one where I've watched it 100 times. This is one of whenever I was sick from school movies, I'd throw this on in the background between my sniffles. And I always loved it. And watching it with a slightly more critical eye this time, I think it holds up as a fun movie.
Yeah, I would agree. It was actually, like, I think I've been saying in the last couple of episodes that this is sort of the worst one of the first 3, which I will stand by, but the gap is less than I remember. Like, this was not nearly as sort of shitty as I had in my head. I think I was remembering all the sort of cheesiness, and it actually had a little bit more like substance to it than I remembered, which might be because I haven't watched it since I was quite young. So maybe it was a little bit more interesting than I remembered because I'd forgotten those bits.
I think it also I think it definitely sits apart from the first 2 in my head because it is like a change in focus. Like those 2 are very much trying to have a message, and there's an intellectual layer to both of the first 2, particularly the first one. Whereas I remember seeing a comment once that I thought was a perfect summation of this film, which is like, this is the one where Joe Johnston, the director, really just realized that these are monster movies and the dinosaurs are monsters in a horror movie. And I think that really perfectly sums up what this movie is trying to do, which is just kind of take Jurassic Park and kind of remove all the like high level intellectual stuff and just be a really fun horror film. And so it's like, I think comparing it to 1 and 2 is apples and oranges. I think I'd say those ones are better movies, but I find this one more fun.
Yeah.
I guess, I do want to say, I guess I'm coming from the perspective of, I stand by my decision to pick this one as the Jurassic Park to watch over and over again, especially while I'm sick. Like, I think 1 and 2, I like, I don't know, more serious, kind of more sit with the movies or whatever. Whereas this one is just like, it's a popcorn film. This is a very easy film to just watch again and again and again.
Yeah. Sorry, you go, Reuben.
Well, I was going to say, I think the first and second film still traded on the majesty of the dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas as the movies went on, and presumably their budgets got worse, at least it seemed like they didn't put as much effort into the dinosaurs looking as good. Like, it was definitely the right choice to not try and be like, oh, these dinosaurs look shittier than the ones from the first movie, are so majestic. Like, I think that would have been a mistake. So instead, less lighting, more quick cuts. Well, that's a horror movie, baby. That's how we've got to do it. And I think that's it was a smart decision.
Yeah, definitely the first 2 are more plot driven and this one's more a monster movie, but yeah, it had more substance, I guess, than most monster movies and than I remembered. But yeah, very much, I agree, it felt apart from the other 2.
Yeah.
In that was much more of a focus, as the dinosaurs were very much the baddies in this one, where I think we've spoken in the other 2 about how the dinosaurs aren't the baddies.
They were forces of nature.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas in this one, it was just like the dinosaurs are trying to eat them and they keep killing everybody. And it was much more a monster movie.
This is the first time I've watched this one since the Jurassic World trilogy started. And now, having watched that, I feel more confident about putting this one as the middle ground, like between the Jurassic World trilogy and the first 2. Like, I think if you look at, and we'll probably talk about this more when we've watched those, but I think the direction that Jurassic Park 3 moves the series in is something that Jurassic World did a lot more, mostly for worse. But this one sort of sits very much in the middle because it's still kind of Jurassic Parky, but it's really shifted that focus, and this one is just an action adventure-y sort of film, and I think that's why I love it. Like, it is just an easy one to pop on if you've already seen it.
Yeah. Does anyone know the backstory behind why they switched out Jeff Goldblum for Sam Neill and Laura Dern again? What was the thought process behind that?
I mean, obviously the second movie was based on the book sequel, which I'm assuming I actually haven't read, but I'm assuming starred Ian Malcolm. Whereas obviously this one is not based on a book by Michael Crichton. I'm pretty confident of that. I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty confident. So I don't know whether, I mean, they're both big names. Do you think just everybody loves Sam Neill, and Alan Grant's a great character?
Yeah.
I would assume it was just for that reason, not anything particularly interesting, but I haven't looked it up.
Yeah, I guess, you're right. The Lost World novel. Oh, and this fucking explains why it was called The Lost World: Jurassic Park, was because the novel's name was The Lost World.
Did you not realize that?
No, I didn't. So I guess they tried to trade on that. Anyway, so that this third one wasn't based on a novel, but The Lost World was starring.
And they probably just went a lot simpler. Where, like, I think, because I remember, I think we talked about this last month. Child Elliot definitely it confused and angered me that Ian Malcolm was the main character of The Lost World, because Alan Grant felt like the main character of the first
wrong
one.
reaction.
Yeah.
So angry. Where's Sam Neill?
I was a very troubled child. But yeah, like Sam Neill felt like the main character in the first film. So then when he wasn't in the second one, I never liked it. I never liked that he wasn't in it, because I had this very simplistic view of how stories should work. And so I remember it did appeal to me the first time I saw this as like an 11-year-old, that like Alan Grant was back as the main character, because he was the main character in my head. And I guess that's just the sort of market.
Child, Elliot.
This is the sort of market. It's still a little bit of a problem for me. Like, Game of Thrones, I still very much view as Stark and Friends. And I think that's slightly fair, because I still think the Starks were the majority of the cast, but it's like whoever starts tends to be the main character in my head, and I struggle to let go of that.
Are you like Tobey Maguire purist?
No, because they're like different iterations, like whole different iterations, so that's fine.
I like that Ian Malcolm's still got a mention though. Like they still got to talk about his book for a minute there. Still got to bring him up. He rules.
I really love that scene where the kid's like, I don't like Ian. He seems really full of himself, and Samuel's just so happy.
Yeah.
Ian Malcolm died in the first book, or was supposed to have died, and then got brought back for the second book.
Really?
Yeah. So I've just been reading about the Lost World book.
So I guess he didn't die. He was just severely injured or something.
Like maybe he did an Eric in this film, but we'll get to that.
No, Billy.
Billy, sorry.
He was definitely meant to have died, and Crichton says that he got the idea of bringing a dead character back from Arthur Conan Doyle, who brought back Sherlock Holmes, which is such a weird concept.
I didn't get it from the Bible, guys. I got it from Sherlock Holmes.
It just feels like a thing where he did it, and then he was like, God, who is like a respected author that I can say, well, they did it.
Who did this good?
He started it, so
So yeah, I guess, this movie starts how every Jurassic Park movie so far that we've seen has started, which is some people get eaten by dinosaurs, having thoroughly failed to learn the lesson of the previous films.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to start with an action film. That's like, making a movie 101 for this sort of genre, so it makes sense. But I think this one is the best one, in that it very much establishes the tone of this movie, which is a kind of corny horror film. And also the parasail company that they're using is called Dinosaur, like spelled SOAR. And it's been like 15 years, and I still really fucking enjoy that pun every single time.
It's a good point that you make, that this does set the tone. Like when you think about it in comparison to the opening scene of like the first film, which is like way kind of darker and like more serious or something. Whereas this one is like a bit silly.
Yeah,
It's like scary, but it's a bit silly.
like it's such nonsense that the boat comes out of the fog. Well, first of all, fog isn't that thick and that localized in real life. That's a smoke machine. But also, like the boat comes out and the bodies are just like full on gone, but the boat's still running fine. And it's like that's not how that works.
So
like,
also, do you guys like? So they're supposed to have been grabbed by the flying dinos, right?
No. They got by the Spinosaurus, right?
No, see, I would have said velociraptors. This is really interesting.
In the middle of the ocean.
In the ocean, what do you
There's
mean
no,
velociraptors?
have you seen the velociraptor's body? Like, there's no way they can swim. They've got the tiny little.
I'm not suggesting they swim. They rock hop.
They were too
No,
far out.
what
They were like
are you
in the middle of the
talking
water.
about?
It was shallow. Look, okay, honestly, that was an assumption I made when I was 11 and I've never questioned it.
It's definitely not the velociraptor.
Interesting,
Yeah.
because I actually had in my head, like I started typing this even, like that I was really confused about the fact that like there were water dinosaurs and that it never comes up again. And then I actually watched the scene and was like, I don't know why I thought there were water dinosaurs ever. Like that is not really it at all. It's just because they were in the boat, I guess. But I was confused because I was thinking it must be the flying ones. I hadn't thought of the Spinosaurus. I thought it was a bit too far offshore.
They only get out because the gang opens the thing. You know what I mean?
She doesn't close the door, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can't have been them. But
but remember at the end of the second film, we see some flying dinos flying off into the sky at the end.
That's at the end of this film. Is that at the end of the previous one?
No, it was at the end of the first one too. It was the first one.
Yeah,
actually.
one of the first one. Yeah, one of the others.
Oh, anyway, so maybe it was flying dinos. I assumed it was the Spinosaurus. Because I was really confused what it was the whole way through. But then at the end, there's the Spinosaurus in like the river, but it's obviously not that far out. So I was kind of like, that doesn't quite make sense. I was expecting there to be an aquatic dinosaur the whole time, but there never really was.
I suppose they're just leaving it open-ended. It can be whichever fucking dinosaur you want it to be.
It's just spooks. That's what it is. They were there and then they're not because something inside the smoke machine ate them.
It couldn't have been velociraptors. The boat was too torn up for velociraptors.
I think Reuben and my theories both have some merit, and yours is stupid, Elliot.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that I haven't thought about it since I was 11. So
you should have.
Well, 11-year-old Elliot's stupid.
Oh yeah. Top
and angry apparently.
Not even in the top 10 issues with 11-year-old Elliot. Yeah. I do like, as much as one of the things I enjoy about this film is the way that it's kind of taking a step back from actually engaging with anything serious. I think it's really funny that based on where the second film left off, we're now a few years later and people are treating the dinosaurs like this exotic, fun mystery, which
it kind of is, right?
Yeah, that feels like the logical thing from InGen having to reveal there are dinosaurs and they're going to keep them locked up on the island. Of course, everyone in the world is going to be like, "Show us the fucking dinos." It's like, of course, there's going to be black market.
I'd be thinking about it near daily.
Yeah,
I'd be like, God, I want to see a dinosaur.
Like the idea that there's some like illegal company running dinosaur stuff, like 100% there would be, and they charge a fortune, and people would pay it, and like. There's also the bit where Sam Neill's giving a speech in a couple of scenes, and everyone's just there to talk about Jurassic Park, and it's like, well, yeah, of course they're going to. Like, it seems like the like all the info that got out was essentially dinosaurs are real, and then they've sort of managed to cover up most of the rest of the specifics.
But Eric does mention that he's written a book after Jurassic Park. I don't know that it's talked about his time on the island, though. Did it?
But there's still be a difference between reading a book about it and being like, there's a fucking pair of islands with dinos on there. Somebody give me camera footage, you know? Like,
yeah, it's what Vince Vaughn's whole thing was, remember?
Yeah.
Surely that's on
but YouTube
was 2005, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You'd want more. Anyway, yeah, I just thought it was really fun that it was like, it did totally make sense to me for the continuity of the universe that 5 years after the Lost World or whatever, the dinosaurs have turned into this like a curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? They're going back for more dinos. I guess it's weird to me that I guess you would do like a parasailing tour of the island, would you? It feels so dangerous.
It feels like a relatively I was going to say it feels like a relatively safe way of doing it in comparison to,
I guess,
a helicopter.
Before you find out that they're,
swimming dinos,
flying and swimming dinos, yeah,
flying or swimming dinos.
Yeah.
Life finds a way to kill you, no matter where you are.
That's
Land, sea, sky.
Life finds a way. ... to kill you was the subtitle.
I mean, that honestly wouldn't be a terrible tagline for the franchise as a whole. That kind of is what keeps happening.
So yeah, Sam Neill and Laura Dern are back. Sam Neill is off trying to make a name for himself with his research, but struggling, I suppose. His research keeps not getting funded. Did that happen in the first movie? It did, right?
Well, yeah, and then John Hammond came and donated.
Yeah.
I love the fake out because the first one of these scenes is where like Sam Neill is at Laura Dern's place and
they're playing with a kid, yeah.
And it leads you to believe that he's the father, and there's it's a bit of a misdirect before you find out he's just an old friend visiting, and Laura Dern has like married and had kids with some other guy. And it's just a fun way to kind of trick you and then also really establish that Alan is still this guy who kind of gets left behind by the rest of the world. Like he's still just kind of stuck and everyone moves on without him.
Mm. Yeah, good fake out. I liked it. It was a bit strange to me that it feels like there's definitely some sexual tension between these two, right? Was that just me?
I hadn't really, I guess, again, because I've seen this movie a lot when I was like younger, so I wasn't really thinking about it. I was getting like very much an old friends vibe. But then when I'd read your comment while I was watching the movie, and I was like, oh yeah, especially like that, yeah, when he goes to leave and she's like, you're still the best. And I was like,
yeah, that was a bit
I got
strange
the vibe
to
of like
me.
a couple who, this is my, I guess, headcanon. I feel like they would have been together, but probably Alan didn't want kids and she did. That's like the vibe I'm picking up
for
here.
sure.
But yeah, I'm assuming there's still feelings there. It was just like incompatible life directions, so they had to break up. Yeah,
and that they've like managed to stay like very good friends, but like also, Anyway, they both seem like nice people. I'm sure they would never cheat.
Well, for sure. I can't wait to find out why she decides to abandon her family and go back to Jurassic Park in 3 movies' time. BT dubs. I'm very hyped.
Can't wait to see grown-up Charlie. Is this going to be like The Mummy?
I'm so excited to watch that film with you guys. Like all 3 of them, but particularly the last one with these first 3 in knowledge. Oh, it's gonna be so good.
Another thing that this movie brings back in this, what is this second scene, that has been really consistent across all 3 is the whole thing about children, like parents and children relationships. Is again like a really huge part of this movie. Like we start off, it's like Alan, he's still awkward with kids. He's trying to teach this 3-year-old about, paleontology, and she's like, he's sorry, wait till he's 5. And that kind of comes back in the movie again. And obviously the major plot point is 2 parents trying to find their lost child. It's just sort of not something I'd ever really thought about, like that I'd never associated with Jurassic Park. But now that we're watching and kind of like really talking about all 3 of them, I'm like, this is such a consistent theme in these films, like parent-child relationships.
But I couldn't tell you like what they're saying about them. Like I think this came up last month when we were talking about in number 2 how they are like maybe some parallels with the T-Rexes and the way they take care of their parents and the kids. But it was like I don't know what the connection is. Sort of like is there an actual sort of message or theme?
I'm gonna say I don't remember if I said this already last time, but I always thought it was trying to show that the dinosaurs and the humans weren't so different.
Yeah,
like that. Maternal and paternal instinct, or is sort of this like inherent thing that we all share, and that's how and it kind of like humanizes the dinosaurs.
Yeah, okay, humanize, because I was going to say, I mean, dogs do that too. Like, why do I care that dinosaurs do it? But to humanize the dinosaurs makes sense.
Yeah, but in the same way that, I mean, you could do that in a film with an animal, like they like it's like probably a trope, really, when you think about it, that having the mummy or daddy animal come for its baby turns a monster into just like a misunderstood creature, which is what I always thought. And they do it again in this movie. Again,
I think
original, but
yeah, they do it. In this movie, it's very like they want their kid, and as soon as they have their eggs back, they're going to just be like chill. or much more like that than in the previous movie where they're actually animals and you've kind of pissed them off and you're not just going to get out of it by giving
the
them
T-Rex has really sought vengeance.
Yeah, to be fair, I think it's established in this one that the Velociraptors probably would have, but then he does the call for help and then they hear the helicopter.
Yeah, that's what I picked up.
And so the Velociraptors were kind of like,
tactically retreat.
Yeah, look, we've got the eggs. Let's just fucking bounce. Which, like, again, is that increase in intelligence? Which, like, there's a massive scope creep in Velociraptor intelligence in this movie, but
I'm sure it'll get worse it is as we keep going.
Yeah, it is justified, I think, at the end there.
Yeah. So, Sam Neill has this like bit where he's talking to. I really like this scene where he's like pitching for more funding in front of a crowd or whatever. I actually wasn't exactly sure what it was. Some kind of talk, I guess.
But nobody's actually there to hear him. Like they all want to.
They're all going to talk about Jurassic Park.
No, he says he's fundraising because he finishes the talk by saying like, "And I hope you give us money so we can continue to research."
Oh, okay, right. I was obviously also bored.
Role playing as an audience member.
Because I was about to say I've been to like things at the Opera House where it's just like scientists talking about animals and things with my friends. So I just assumed it was something like that. But I think
that line. It was, but it was probably like, tickets go to donating and there's probably like a silent auction or some shit too.
Yeah, that's true. Usually the proceeds for something like that would go to some kind of fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. I actually liked them opening with the like ordinary mundane lives of, like these characters and seeing like Laura Dern just living her family life and Sam Neill just like doing his job, because it kind of like does highlight how crazy shit gets later in the film.
Yeah.
And again, just make some characters rather than just like people who are there to get chased by dinosaurs.
Two-dimensional.
Like they did the same thing with Malcolm in the last movie. Like you got to kind of reestablish who they are as people before we reestablish them as dinosaur victims.
Yeah. These movies are good at making the main cast, at least, not really the peripheral characters. Like they do ground them. They make them people.
Yeah.
Like they aren't just fodder. In this film, I think we have more fodder with the people that the Kirbys bring for sure. Yeah.
They've definitely got. There's some people on the plane in a second who are definitely a fodder.
Anyway, I don't remember any of their names. They die very quickly, most of them also.
Yeah.
Except Udesky.
It's very horror film standard stuff where like you get these characters and it's like they're so much less developed than the rest of them. It's like, well, he's going to die first. Like people in these films just have I'm going to die in the first half energy, and those two guys on the plane had so much I'm going to die in the first half energy.
They're introduced by they're just shooting a big gun at a plane and you're like they're going to die so fast.
They have no personality traits apart from being military,
which is so different from like the second film where we had like actually quite developed and interesting sort of baddies.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between a book and a film script.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But yeah, so Sam Neill says to his, assistant, I guess, that nothing can get him back to that island. And even as he says it, we all know that's not what's going to happen. In fact, the thing that gets him back to the island is the exact same thing that got him to the island the first time around, which is being written a check so that his research can keep going.
Yeah, which I kind of like, because the one thing they've established about Alan's character at this stage is that he's still stuck in the past. Like everyone is sort of openly mocking him because he studies dinosaur bones, and like this comes up in that talk he gives where everyone goes like, "Why are you studying dinosaur bones? There's actual dinosaurs now." Like,
and it's ironic as well because he's one of the only people who's actually gotten to see any of those dinosaurs.
And like, there's this great bit because then Sam Neill gets to explain like, "Oh no, those aren't real dinosaurs. Those are genetically engineered monsters," which kind of helps the film establish its take on the dinosaurs, which is just they're monsters. But like also, continues to establish this idea that like this is a dude who just went back to how his life was before, and he's just doing the same old shit.
I think he's like, it seems to be his way of dealing with his trauma is to just like
pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, to kind of just like push it away and say those aren't. Like he loved dinosaurs. It's like he wants to tell himself that those weren't his dinosaurs or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just always took it because later in the film, he kind of, he has a conversation with Eric where he kind of admits that that's maybe not exactly right. That he more just doesn't want to be
scared.
chased.
Yeah,
he doesn't like them because they're scary.
yeah. But so of course the dude who's like just gone back to the way things were makes the same mistake again.
Yeah, there's a lot of foreshadowing at the start of this film.
It's great.
Like there's like basically every second line is somebody being, like, I would never go back to that island, or like, I don't know, stuff like that. Can't remember them all now.
One of the characters who I think does better on a rewatch is Billy, because Billy is a bit of a nothing character overall.
So boring.
he's the hot boring. One. Like that's his trait, really.
Yeah, they were like, he's a good-looking young man.
Yeah,
yeah.
But like the one part of the movie where I actually kind of like what they're doing with him is this opening scene where they do establish him as the guy who like is on Alan's side but wants to modernize it. Like he's brought in that 3D printer, which again, this came out in 2001, so that's like fucking early for 3D printers.
I was surprised that he's just got a 3D printer. It's crazy.
Yeah. So he was someone who was sort of like he seemed to want to be on Alan's side, but then he also did want to sort of push forward, and that kind of sets him up as the kind of guy who's going to kidnap the eggs later. And that's like as close as he comes to being an interesting character.
That's true. I actually think the idea of his character is very good and just not the best executed. Like he's like, I guess maybe a bit what Alan Grant was like before he went to the island. Like he fucking loves dinosaurs. And I mean, without the obvious, Alan had that thing where he always has hated technology, and like Billy doesn't. Like he's a real go-getter and a bit of an action person. Like he's, gone parachuting or paragliding and mountaineering and all these things.
And he knows how tall K2 is.
Yeah, he's done K2 obviously. But yeah, he's kind of the, like Alan Grant says later, he's like, he's just young. Like he's the one who hasn't had a reason to hate dinosaurs yet. And he just really likes dinosaurs. And that kind of was a nice idea to bring in. And I think, like you said, setting him up as somebody who's, going to approach things very differently from Alan, but from a similar background or something.
They've got similar goals, but very different methods.
Yeah.
I do want to call it, though, the only other defining trait he has is that he has a lucky backpack strap, which is
That's
lifted
his personality.
straight from the previous film, too. Because I was watching this and I was like, I swear I watched a movie recently where someone had a lucky backpack, and it took me a good 5 minutes before I was like, it was the fucking Lost World.
Yeah.
It's the last Jurassic Park movie that we watched.
Maybe the backpack has been somehow transformed into the camera bag. And
it's like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It's like this backpack that just goes to these dinosaur islands and saves people's lives. Does it come back up in the Jurassic World trilogy, Elliot?
I mean, not that I remember, but this is the sort of thing I'm going to be looking for now. Because,
what's the lucky backpack?
Like Hannah, our sister, who isn't on this podcast, is extremely Jurassic Park obsessed. And after we watched the final film together, she pointed out like about 20 references to previous films that I had missed. But also like she hadn't watched them in a fair while either. She's just like obsessed, so she remembered them better.
She's just one of those people who remembers weird
too.
shit and then like can't remember anything within her daily life. Like anyway.
Yeah.
Do you remember that part in the Lost World Jurassic Park where they get to the island?
Calling it by its full name, I hate it every time. They
get to the island and then they find the bag and they're like, "Oh my god, she must be dead." And then actually, she just like put her bag down. It's like the weakest fake. I was just thinking back to it and it makes me laugh every time how silly that is.
Like this is the real lore of Jurassic Park, I think. Forget cloning dinosaurs. I feel like the real thing that separates the Jurassic Park world from our world is lucky backpacks.
Straps.
Yeah. Actually, if you have a lucky pack, you cannot die.
Yeah. Like there's magic in this world and it only takes the form of lucky backpack straps. So I also wanted to call out, I think this is the first time I've watched this film in like at least a handful of years. And I always thought the scene where they 3D print the Velociraptor vocal cords and then like make their noises was the coolest shit ever. But this time it's been completely ruined for me by, that meme of the documentary about the mummy where they like made its vocal cords so you could hear what the old pharaoh sounded like?
No. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll play it for you after this, Georgia. It's the funniest and stupidest meme ever, and it's just completely ruined the scene for me. Where like he picked up the Velociraptor thing and started to blow into it, and all I wanted to hear come through the speakers was that stupid mummy's voice.
Yeah. The first time they play this in this scene, I don't think it really sounds like a Velociraptor.
Well, I kind of like that touch because, I mean, really, if you...
You're right. It wouldn't sound like...
Yeah, it wouldn't. It sounds like it, but not the same, which is more realistic, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And they do make it sound like somebody is just blowing through a 3D printed thing. Like, yeah, I actually thought they did a pretty good job with that sound. Make it you're like, it is a Velociraptor, but it's not actually.
Yeah, it sounds like a Velociraptor-ish sound being blown into a plastic thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sam Neill says no force on Earth can get me back to the island, and then gets a check and doesn't even really put up a fight. He just like goes along with it immediately, which I guess I don't want to see him like put up a fight to it, but it's just kind of funny to me that he says literally no force on Earth can get me to the island, and it's the first thing that the first person tries.
I think it's one of those like lines that somebody came up with in the first draft, because it's like it's a great like it sort of frames the end of the scene where like it's like establishing stakes. He's like, no force on heaven or earth could get me on that island, and it's like, okay, so he doesn't want to go to the island, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is big and dramatic, but you're right, it is kind of undercut by then him being like, oh, a little bit of money to go back to the island. Well, okay then.
At least it's refreshing that's not InGen this time.
Yeah. And Billy kind of helps push him into it. Like, again, borderline being a good character, Billy.
Well, so you got to give some credit. The Kirby's deception game is really good. Like, it's a pretty good what's the word for it? It's like a grift or whatever. Like,
yeah.
They're not bad. Like, given that they've probably never done this before, like they're pretty good liars.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. Like, I was believing it up until they were on the plane, and I was like, oh wait, they're bringing guns, so obviously there's something going on here.
It's like the only part of their plan that was actually truly good, and then every other part of their plan makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, they put all the effort into how to trick Alan Grant into coming.
Yeah, I really like when they're on the plane and like Alan and Billy. So it's sort of just, you can just see Alan and Billy are sitting on the plane and they're talking about it, and you know, Billy's like, thanks for bringing me along or something. And I was like, yeah, I have like zero intention of being alone with these people, like basically implying that they're super annoying. And then the shot pans out and they're like 30 centimeters from him. Like, they would have heard every word he said. And he's just like, yep, anyway, it's your turn to be nice, Billy. I'm going to sleep. And I was like, wow, this guy gives no fucks. Alan Grant does not care about offending anyone.
To be fair, this is already, he doesn't know how much they've lied to him, but he knows that they've lied to him a bunch already. So, yeah, you know, I don't think he's like that with everyone. It's just these guys tricked him on to landing on the island. So
no, this was before that.
Is this still on the plane?
Yeah, when they're like on the plane and they're just like,
oh god,
just flying there. They haven't even like gotten to the island yet. He's just like, oh, I don't want to be alone with these people. Like right behind them.
Is this before the dream?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, before he goes to sleep, and then he goes to sleep, and then he has his dream.
Yeah, that dino dream, by the way, because I've seen like screenshots or GIFs of it before, and I guess I just forgot that it was in these movies and we hadn't seen it yet, because I was not expecting how silly it is.
It just comes out of nowhere, fits in with nothing else in the movie, and adds nothing. It's so weird.
I've hated it for like 20 years. I hate it.
It always makes me think of, if we could talk about memes, you know, that meme with it's like a hamster or something. It's like, Alan.
It's a meerkat, isn't it?
No, it's not a meerkat, right? I'm looking it up. Alan.
That'll
meme.
do. Yeah, just Alan.
It's this little.
Oh, it's like a gopher,
chipmunky looking gopher. That's the word. That's it. Alan, Steve.
What is this from?
It's just I'm pretty sure it's a very old meme.
It's a BBC thing. No, I think BBC actually produced it.
Oh, is it from fucking Creature Comforts or whatever that show was?
Where does Alan come from?
There used to be this show on the BBC. I think it was called Creature Comforts.
George just clicked a thing. Like Google was like suggesting she searched where does Alan come from, and it auto completed the answer of London, England.
And then there's a Reddit post. My name is Alan, and this video has ruined my life.
Oh yeah.
Oh, poor Alan. It's like I got a friend called Shelley, and me and one other friend was like, Shelley from South Park. Anyway. I don't think we've ruined her life though.
I used to live with this girl who was like friends with benefits with this guy called Carl. Yeah. Every time they were in her room, because like they were loud, and so like we'd be in the living room and you could hear them in the living room, so we'd just sit there going, Carl. And it was like she'd come out, later, and she'd be like, guys, that's really not cool. And it's like, well, it's not cool that we can hear you, Anyway. But she was like, he really doesn't like it, he doesn't think that video is funny. And it's like, well, then be quiet and it won't be a problem for him.
We wouldn't be doing it if it
we don't enjoy the sounds of you two. Like this is a mutually beneficial agreement.
We can posted that on Am I the Asshole?
No, because I don't think I was. I stand by my decision.
Yeah, but it's nice to have like 500 strangers on the internet confirm it so you can show it, because that's what they always do at the end of the post. They're always like, I showed this to the person I had the argument with. I'm always like, that's wild. Anyway, I don't know. I always find that a weird way to resolve an argument.
No, I'm not still in contact. That was the place where I moved out of it 3 months before the lease broke to move to California.
Oh, in Leichhardt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that place.
And somebody else took my room, and the house got real weird and rowdy after I left, and there were like multiple 10-year relationships involved in that group of friends that broke up because of what happened there. I just don't talk to half those people anymore. It really went south. Apparently I was the stabilizing force with my boringness.
I can believe that.
Your ability to
my asexual energy.
That's like I used to, in one of my share houses, I was the person who would turn, people would go up and turn the music up. Like we lived opposite, next door, to some 80-year-old people and this other couple, a younger couple, and uni student house. And we'd be having some party on a weeknight, and I would be that person at 11 who would go and turn the music down, and then people would come to turn it up, and I'd be like, no, seriously, guys, we're fucking neighbors. And then there was this one night where I got absolutely really drunk. It was known as Black Tuesday. And everybody was like, the worst part was that it just was super loud music till 2:00 in the morning because Georgia was out. I was like, I didn't realize I had such an important role being the buzzkill.
Sorry. You've reminded me of something I like to complain about too, which is in that same house, the floors were super thin. So we were on the top floor, and there was an 80-year-old couple who lived below us on the third floor, which was impressive because there were no elevators to this place. We were walking up the 4 flights of stairs every day, and they were walking up 3. Anyway, but the floors were super thin, and the balcony had this shield on it, which caught and reverberated all sound. So we could hear their conversations if nobody was talking in our apartment.
It's weird.
And but then the thing is, they noise complained. If we were watching TV after 9 p.m, they would call the landlord and complain.
That's not reasonable.
But because they could hear it, and they're it does affect our ability to sleep. But it was it wasn't that loud. So we just and now I'm still a bit scarred, but I still get really paranoid about making noise.
Yeah.
In places trauma, because I remember having people come, because we watched fucking the J.J. Abrams Star Trek film, and it was the landlord actually came up and he was like, we're getting noise complaints, you got to turn it down. I brought him into the living room. I was like, it's the TV's on 30. I can't. I need to be able to hear it myself. You guys need to fix the floors in this building or something.
What's and having lived in uni accommodations and stuff, there are set times. You can't make a noise complaint at 9 p.m.
Yeah, but they were 80. That's the thing. So they wanted to go to bed, but it was
still, it's no, it's too bad. It's if you live in an area where there's a lot of people, you can make a noise complaint after 10 on a weekday, and after midnight, like on a Friday, Saturday. That's the general rule, right?
But we were the 3 kids straight out of uni, so it was kind of like we were convinced that like they'd kick us out at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, because I helped out at a friend's 18th, a friend's little sister's 18th when I was like in my 20s. Just like because it's like a single mom, and so she's like, can a few of you come to like help, just like sort of be a presence, because I'm really intimidating. I'm 5 foot tall, and it's like a very neurotic family. They sent out letters to like everybody within like a huge radius of the house. And then there was a noise complaint, and a police officer turned up at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday night. And like he was so rude. It was weird. And like the mum was just like, oh, would you like some food or something? He's like, no, I'm here about a noise complaint. And like I was like, oh, it's 8:30 p.m. I don't think people are allowed to make noise complaints at 8:30 p.m. Like, you don't try to play the dumb like, oh,
there's
I
rules
think
here, right? Where it's
like,
yeah.
It's 10 p.m. on a weeknight and it's midnight on a Friday, Saturday. That's like enforced strictly in like uni accommodation and stuff. But if you actually look it up, because I've looked it up because we had those really noisy neighbors.
Yeah.
There's actually like a police officer cannot turn up and tell you to turn the music down at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday night. Like they have to wait till midnight. Anyway,
what were we talking about?
Yeah, I don't know how we got onto.
We're about 3 complainer stories deep.
Yeah.
They're on their way to the island, and twist, they're not actually there for whatever excuse that William H. Macy made up. I've already forgotten what it was. They're actually here to rescue their son, who was the kid on the dinosaur tour.
That's Saw, SOAR.
Yes. And hold for applause. And okay. But yeah, unfortunately, they get attacked by a T-Rex, and they have to.
It's a Spinosaurus aegypticus.
Isn't it a T?
No, the T-Rex is after. They get attacked by the Spinosaurus.
Don't they get attacked by the T-Rex first and then the Spinosaurus?
No, it's the Spine. Because remember, Billy goes T-Rex, and Alan goes, no, it sounds bigger. And then the Spinosaurus comes out. Right. And it is bigger.
Yeah, they run away from the Spinosaurus after it tries to eat the aeroplane, and then it's as they get away that they encounter the T-Rex and then fights the Spinosaurus.
Yeah, loses.
Anyway, so yeah, they have to fly off in their plane, and it crashes, and it's just trouble. Big trouble.
Huge action scene very early on. Like I still... and I know Scott is going to send me an angry DM on Discord as I say this, but like Jurassic Park 1 took far too long to ramp up.
Too long, yeah.
And this film has its problems, but that is not one of them. It's like 20 minutes into this film, and this is a pretty great action scene.
Yeah, it is good. 0 to 100. Well, not 0.
But
10 to 100.
Pretty quick.
Like several people die very quickly. I think 2 or 3 people die basically all in this start bit.
2, I think. It's the 2 gun guys. I don't even remember their names.
And again, it's like, so, okay, because we kind of touched on this, but I wanted to have a little rant about it later, is like how stupid the Kirby's plan is, because they have this like genius plot to trick Alan into coming.
Yeah.
But the rest of it makes no sense. Like so it's like we want Alan Grant because he's the expert. So it would be more beneficial to get his expert advice, even if he doesn't agree to come to the island, to get his expert advice about how one would go about searching for a young man who's been missing for 8 weeks. And then you would bring somebody more a la like Billy, who's like a bit more, I don't know, who knows maybe a bit about dinosaurs or even just predators, and has some Samuel is surprisingly good in a tight situation for somebody who has no reason to be good at doing that.
It's exactly what we talked about with Ian Malcolm in the last movie. But it's a bit like, you guys are really overweighting how much almost got ate by a dinosaur for 24 hours 5 years ago is a skill set.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's a dinosaur expert, but that would have been more valuable to get his just advice.
Get the bald guy from James and the Giant Peach in the last film. Bring him in.
Yes,
get the guy, the hunter from last movie. He would be the perfect person.
Yeah, like I think if you're bringing somebody on the ground, if Alan was happy to come along, great. But if not, you instead of bringing him along, having gotten 0 advice from him, and then immediately knocking him out, and then doing something really stupid that he would advise against. It was just like, none of this makes any sense. And then, it's like they haven't even done their research. Like, he's never even actually, they're like, you've been on this island. He's like, no, I haven't. Like,
which honestly, I feel like we complained last month about the whole there's a second island thing, and I still maintain it was kind of stupid in this film, but it's all worth it for that moment in this one where Alan gets to be like, this wasn't the fucking island I was on. It's great.
Yeah. Or, because, okay, so even if you're not going to bring the hunter guy, because I suppose that is what they did when they had the guys with the guns, right?
Yeah.
I think the person you want is more like Sarah from Lost World, who's like an ecologist who knows all about the behavior of predators. So she's not like a dinosaur expert, but she's an expert on
like a tracker,
predators. Yeah. It's like, that's who you want to bring, not Alan Grant. He studies fossils. And he does surprisingly well, but there's no reason he would be able to.
Maybe he was the only person who didn't do a background. Like, William Macy tried to go to all these other people, and they were too on top of like background checking or trying to cash his checks.
Everyone else actually tried to cash the check.
Alan's more desperate because he's a paleontologist trying to get research funding.
I just want to come back to what a great action scene this one is. Like the first vision of the Spinosaurus as it tears out of the forest and clips their airplane is fucking glorious, and then the way it chases them through the forest. The T-Rex pivot is great. Like the way you think they've gotten away, then boom, there's a T-Rex right there, and then it turns into a T-Rex versus Spinosaurus fight as Alan is like wiggling along the ground, almost getting stepped on. I fucking love it.
I like the bit where the T-Rex first comes, like they find this big carcass, and then the T-Rex is just like lifts its head up, and he goes, "Nobody move," like every other movie, and then everybody just runs. And he's just like,
every time,
and just runs after them. Like every single film, like, guys, don't move for the T-Rex. Oh, they've all run. They've already started running.
Yeah. I really like how there's like no time where their plan is going well here, right? Like immediately things go wrong and they just keep getting worse until the end.
Yeah, they somehow make it off. Even very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I really like all of the reveals around like the Kirbys and all their fraud, and then it even extends to like the only mercenary who survived is actually the guy who's the booking agent for the mercenaries, and one of them was sick, so he was like, "Oh, this will probably be an easy gig. I'll just join in this one time." So it's just like everyone here except for Alan is here under entirely false pretenses.
I like where they're like, he said that we needed an expert, and he's like, "Yeah, I didn't tell you to kidnap anyone, though."
Yeah. I do like the reveal that they also have gotten the islands mixed up. So stupid.
And that like even like after that it's been revealed that they tricked them, then there's like a second reveal where it's like, you've also definitely never done anything adventurous or outdoors, have you? Like, you never climbed K2, did you? And he's just like, I run a kitchen and tile shop. And he's like, I'll make it up to you guys. If you ever are doing a bathroom, that's such a good line.
Sorry, I can't pay you the millions I promised, but if you are getting a bathroom reno,
I will hook you up.
I'll do it for free.
There's this really fun shot as well while they're escaping from the T-Rex where Alan trips over and is hiding between two logs and the T-Rex steps on him. This movie's very silly, but that was quite a fun shot.
Yeah.
Turns out the boy who they're looking for has been missing for 8 weeks and is probably almost certainly dead. But William H. Macy and his ex-wife are going to look for them anyway. They're a very fun couple, and I do like the plot in this movie is so like simple compared to like, oh, the company's trying to get Jurassic Park back again. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very glad they went for something that was just completely different and weird. It's much better.
So this is a bit of a tangent, but you keep like saying William H. Macy, like the guy who plays Mr. Kirby.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen? Like, why are you giving? Because I've just never
supposed to know his name.
I've never seen this actor in anything else. I'm curious.
What do you mean?
I'm just curious why you think he's one of those actors who we'd know by name, because I haven't seen him in anything but this
Vince
movie.
Vaughn. This would be like if you were saying to me, Vince Vaughn. Who is that? Has he been in anything?
But Vince Vaughn has been in other movies that I've seen.
Well, yeah. Well, you should have seen some other things that William H. Macy. William H. Macy has played like one of the lead characters in Shameless for like 10 or 11 years.
What is that?
Oh my god! Come on, Elliot. Haven't you seen anything?
No, apparently not.
I mean, apparently not. Haven't you seen Jerry and Tom from 1998?
Oh, he was a doctor in
shit.
ER.
He was in. Oh, whoa! This is crazy. Oh my god! So the remake of Psycho from 1998 stars Vince Vaughn, which you might have already known, Julianne Moore, and William H. Macy. So it's effectively a prequel
weird.
to Jurassic World, to the Jurassic Park movies.
Is Psycho the one
with the shower?
With the shower.
Yeah.
That's all I know about it.
But this is it's a remake of it. Anyway.
But does it have the shower?
Well, yes, that's a very iconic scene. Oh my god, its runtime is only 104 minutes. Jesus Christ. This is a quick movie. Speaking of quick movies, when I saw the runtime to Jurassic Park 3 was just 90 minutes, I was loving it.
Yeah.
That's not even counting credits. It
felt short.
But we've watched so many films for this show that have been 2 hours where we've all come and said, you could cut half an hour from this and it'd be fine.
Yeah.
And this is one of the first films where we haven't been able to say that, and it's because it was already a tight 90.
Still cut some stuff from it and it would be fine, but...
Disagree. Perfect.
You want to see the director's cut, don't you?
Yeah. Give me the 4-hour version of this film where they spend an hour by the firelight talking about their problems.
Speaking of, I actually feel like they dedicated like almost like a perfect amount of time to characterizing the Kirbys. Like, just enough that I was like, I remember them being sort of annoying from when I was a kid, but I don't remember them being like, I don't know, I didn't look at it in the same way that now you're like, yeah, they're sort of like a great characters in that they're fucked up, but they're just desperate.
Yeah.
And they're just human, and like they bicker and they tell you just enough about their relationship for you to be slightly interested, but without it like becoming boring or annoying. Like you got to sort of admire them. You're like, wow, these parents were just so desperate to, like, they obviously tried to go about things the right way, and then they just got so desperate. And they've actually kind of pulled it off more than you would expect.
I mean,
even though their plan gets really stupid on the ground, like given that they've got zero reason to be able to make a good plan. Yeah.
No, I agree. I like the reveal that they've sort of gone through the proper channels and those have failed them, and so this is their desperation play. Like it feels kind of reasonable. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you sort of, you're annoyed at them, but you can't hate them. Like, I think probably what Alan Grant's feeling as well, like that, it's like, fuck you for taking me to this island. Excuse. But also it's like, you were just trying to rescue your son, like, and you tried doing it in a much more sensible way and it didn't work. So
it's in the top 3 reasons to do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's believable. I like them. I like them as characters. I thought the mother, it was a bit strange how quickly she seemed to get over the fact that her boyfriend was dead. And like get together or kind of get close to getting back together with her ex-husband. But,
I mean, but also her ex-husband, like, they had only been separated for a year. So she'd only been dating that guy. Okay, you can tell I've never been in a long-term relationship. She'd been dating him for like max like 9 months or something, right? Like, you'd be way more worried about your son.
Well, no, of course. Be more worried about your son, yes. But like, she never
mourns,
or
in fact,
seems to be affected.
Well, also,
at all.
she like he's like mostly decomposed skeleton like falls on her, which is pretty fucked up.
There's a hilarious scene where like the screaming she does in response to that, she does like all these weird like body movements. It cracks me up every time.
She does it so well. That's exactly, when you get the heebie-jeebies and you're like, oh yeah, she does it really well.
Yeah it was good.
But then Alan Grant's like, go get her, and I'm like, you could just let her go.
Yeah, give her a minute.
Also, like, she's kind of a liability.
Yeah, give her the megaphone, tell her to wait over there, and we'll come back later.
Just yell for us later and we'll come back. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So they find the dead body, speaking of Amanda's partner, who I've forgotten their name, and so has Amanda. But they don't see any sign of their son yet.
Because he's dead.
because he's probably dead. She's doing a lot of screaming, and as I wrote this, actually, there's a bit very quickly after where she gets upset at William H. Macy for screaming, and I was like, all right, you've won me back.
They really nail the like couple bickering. Like they seem like such a like the dialogue and the way the two like they have good chemistry, the two actors. Like they're really believable as just like a bickering married couple.
Yeah. But they like this is what really irritates me about the end of the film, and maybe we'll talk about it more when we get there, but I hate that they just get back together at the end. I remember complaining about this in National Treasure too, but it's just like when you establish that these couples don't work, but then they re-fall in love on a crazy adventure, and it's like, no, we will try it back in the real world. And it's like, it's going to fall apart again.
It's implied, but it's not, they don't really explicitly say it.
Yeah, I mean, true. But, you know, Eric's got that big smile on his face. His parents are getting back together. You know, they're going to break his heart either way.
Yeah. But I just love the bit where they're bickering, like, you know, he's going like, no, don't do that. Dr. Grant says it's a bad idea. And she's like, oh, Dr. Grant. And he's like, well, why do we bother bringing in an expert if we're not going to listen to them? And he's just like, oh my God, this is like exactly like, it's just such a realistic argument.
I mean, honestly, yeah, we were just listening to our parents fucking bicker at each other like 2 hours ago, and it was very similar.
Yeah.
Sorry, our parents are visiting at the moment, and it's just, they sort of came here, took a bunch of food brought some of their own, but took a bunch of food out of our fridge, started cooking it for dinner, and then kind of got a bit peeved that we had this recording scheduled. And it was like, well, you just showed up and told me that you were cooking our dinner.
No, they always do this. They're like, we're coming down. And I'm like, great. And then they're like, put out because I still have stuff on. And I'm like, but I can't clear my calendar for a whole week. Like Dad was like, what, you're working again tomorrow? I thought you had more than 2 days off. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, well, I have to work.
What just irritates me is that they come like an hour and a half before this recording, and they're like, oh, you have something on, but we've just arrived here and started cooking food in your kitchen without telling you. And it's like, well, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm just bitching now, but yeah.
Bring them on the show. Bring them in.
Parent-child relationships, people.
Yeah, I'll save it for All Packed Up too. But yeah. It was just anyway. The point is, like, yeah, I really felt I could really feel that, like, you know, long-term couple bicker energy out of these two, because I definitely see a bit of it in the relationships around me.
Fair enough. So yeah, I kind of was, a lot of the notes here are just things that I was writing down as I was watching the movie, but there's a very obvious piece of foreshadowing that Billy stole some eggs, and immediately I was like, this is what happened last time. Come on, man, you know this is a bad idea.
Yeah, nobody read Ian Malcolm's book, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're getting chased by dinosaurs, stealing their young is just going to make it worse. It seems obvious to say, doesn't it?
I mean, I guess it is a bit of a thing that people keep underestimating how parental the dinosaurs are. But yeah, I think Billy's just a greedy
Again,
idiot.
I think that was my take on it, was like, I mean, partly he says he was doing it for the money, and I don't think he probably realized that they would chase him so aggressively. But also just that, you know, he's thinking, even he loves the dinos, but he's thinking about them as, like, you know, animals that can't necessarily track them, you know, that well, and that maybe don't have these strong paternal and maternal instincts. But yeah, which is, again, the same thing that happened in the last film. Like, nobody thought the T-Rexes would, first of all, so aggressively try to get their child back, and then seek such vengeance.
Yeah. I guess the mindset of, look, we have to make some money or our research isn't going to be funded is kind of fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah, he's right. It's just a really, again, a very dumb plan with, like, good intentions. Basically the same as the Kirbys. You're like, I get why you did it, but this is a really stupid idea.
And he does kind of own that later, and then he starts sacrificing himself to make up for it. But, like, yeah, like, when Alan confronts him, he's like, yeah, that was stupid and greedy.
Yeah. So yeah, they're all hope seems lost for Sam Neill. He's about to get killed, but then suddenly he gets saved by Eric, who has become the Jungle Child.
Oh, a wilder person, if you will.
A wilder person, yeah. Sam Neill loves wilder people.
The raptors that separate Sam Neill from the group, the appearance of the first one is just like, and there's like 5 of them in this film. There's just banger moments of like just great tension. And this is one where like Amanda is looking through this like growth of fetuses of velociraptors through various like big tubes. And then she gets up to one that's just the big head and she stares at it and then it blinks and it's just, and then it starts trying to eat her. It's fantastic. Like,
I don't think this one has as good action and tension as the last film had, but like it has some good moments. But it doesn't have like anything that's on par with the big bus scene.
That's fair, but the boss scene was more of a like a big. You're right. That's like a giant set piece. Whereas this one has a lot more like just person running around action scenes.
Yeah, and lots of like little good moments, but not any like extended, like really well done action sequences.
Yeah, that's fair. It's lots of little good ones.
Yeah.
I will say for all the fantastic shots, I will compliment this film for having. None of them compare to that shot I talked about last month where they're all running through the grass and then we see the velociraptors coming at them in the long grass. That's still my favorite shot in the franchise.
Yeah, there was nothing quite as like classy or good as that.
I like the bit where I like the Spinosaurus a lot. I mean, I guess it gets its big moment later, but I like the small moments with it, like when they're at the next to the electric fence and stuff. I thought that was really good.
And it just like apparates behind them.
Yeah, it's very sneaky, that dino.
Because it's got that dumb, like, vague look on its face as the phone is going off in its stomach. It's so good. Like that's another one.
The use of the phone in this movie is very good.
Yeah, the phone is iconic because it's the best part of this film by a mile.
Yeah, like first it going off in the Spinosaurus's tummy and then it's in the poo.
Yeah.
And then they use it to get rescued. Like it's basically a main character.
And it's like, having not seen this film for at least 5 years, if you'd asked me a few days ago before I watched it again to sing the tune for the ringtone, I 100% could have done it.
Yeah. Like, maybe not perfectly in tune, but yeah.
Well, yeah, no, but that's just because I can't sing. Like, it was still fresh in my head. Yeah. Like that's I don't know if there's a cinematographic term for it or whatever, but like they came up with that annoying jingle and they use it perfectly and it sticks with you.
Yeah, Spinosaurus kicks ass, but I really like the raptors in this movie. I know they get a weird power boost, like, but I don't know, they're just cool. They're just so cool. And like just the whole time, like Alan is so fascinated by them, even while he's like running away for his life. And Billy as well, like, they're like, instead of running, he just turns around, he's like, oh my God, it's calling for help.
Yeah.
And it's like, keep running. And Billy's like, they barely escaped this trap and Amanda nearly dies. And he's just like, wow, they set a trap. And I'm like, yeah, that'd like probably be me. And I like the whole thing about their vocalizations and the idea that, I mean, obviously this gets really picked up in Jurassic World, but the idea that they're essentially as smart as a human.
Or like a monkey at least.
They're like smarter than primates. And I think, like, I don't know. I just really kind of like them.
It makes them much more interesting monsters.
Yeah, like it makes them really different from all the other dinos. They're not just a big scary monster like the Spinosaurus, which is something that this movie has really leaned into. I find the raptors are always really refreshing in that, like, because I mean it was definitely a thing in the first film, right? That the hunter guy was always like, oh, the raptors are so smart.
Yeah.
They're
just
probably a little
up
bit
it a bit in this
one. Or maybe they just understand them better or something. I don't know. But if you want to have a headcanon that explains it. But I don't know. I just think they're so fucking cool. I just love it.
So I remember really liking the Spinosaurus as a kid and for this movie. And also, I think partially because there was definitely a hipster angle to it, because then whenever somebody was talking about how powerful T-Rexes were, I could be like, well, in Jurassic Park 3, it gets beaten by the Spinosaurus, so that's even cooler, actually.
Yeah. Like, I was actually surprised because I was like, no way a Spinosaurus is that much bigger than a T-Rex, but it was. Yeah. Like, I looked it up and it is. So why is is this a stupid question? Why is the T-Rex the one that everyone that's like so famous?
I think
because the Spinosaurus also has its cool like sail on the back. It's mad.
Swims. I think the T-Rex was found first and they found more of them. So it's just like, I have a feeling the Spinosaurus was actually only properly really gotten a hold of like like, you know, probably only a handful of years before this film was made. Whereas I think like the T-Rex was iconic because it was one of the first ones that was like full skeletons were found and stuff.
Yeah, that might be it. What about the cool like red T-Rex with the horn that makes a brief
it's like
appearance?
a little Allosaurus.
Yeah, that thing's cool.
Yeah. No, I saw because I saw a Spinosaurus skeleton actually in London when I went there. Like
cool.
in the Natural History Museum, they had the Spinosaurus, and they were huge, and yeah, fucking so much cooler than a T-Rex.
Not as cool as a Velociraptor, though,
but bigger. And that's
different.
What's more important?
This is true.
Imagine having a sail like that that's like made out of your back skin and bone. Ugh, gross.
Well, we've talked about this on Power Reflections, Reuben, but like I would love to be like a mermaid, or I want the H2O just add water powers. Because I want fins
to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, it is. You're talking about having fins and shit, and like a sail. Like I want
a giant sail on your.
Yeah,
back.
I take that. Well, all I'm saying is I want water parts.
Have you seen? Maybe this is a spoiler. Anyway,
I thought the spine would be for temperature regulation rather than swimming.
I thought it was
defensive. How does that help it swim?
Same way like a shark or a dolphin fin does. It's like a steering.
But it's not the right shape.
It's the same basic shape.
All right, let's Google. Why did the Spinosaurus have a sail? Yeah, heat regulation looks like it's the answer.
Yeah, but also to...
Elliot, I already told you I've gone to the opera house to watch scientists talk about animals. You're not going to win this one.
So it also could have been for...
Reuben already looked it up. He doesn't believe you.
It could have been for like a defensive thing to like...
Oh, there's a debate. Debate heats up over swimming ability of bizarre-looking Spinosaurus.
Thing is the thing. Anyway, this kid caught a T-Rex midstream and just like was like, yeah, I'll take some of that.
Yeah, I like how they keep it vague and he's just like, you don't want to know, but then all you can do for the next 5 minutes is think about how the fuck this kid got a whole bottle of T-Rex pee.
Yeah, like, because like, no way if you see a T-Rex pissing, you're like, I'll get under that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and like, he must have been covered in the stuff and he only had one lot of clothes. So I don't understand. I guess that deters.
We've seen that the Spinosaurus is clearly one of those animals. I don't know if there's a term for it, but you know how like llamas and cats will form like poop corners? And the Spinosaurus does that. Maybe T-Rexes do that too. So this kid was just camped in the T-Rex poop corner with this thing and then it came and peed on him. And so he was just lying there in the poop and it peed on him.
He must have stank.
I feel like by the time like you're properly in the T-Rex poop area, like you just have switched off your sense of smell, you know?
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I work in a job where sometimes there are bad smells and there are some smells that are so bad. Like
you work in T-Rex pee collection, right?
Yeah. But like there's one particular time I can think of where I was weirdly worried about this person, but I could not be in the room. I had to call somebody else to come and see the patient because I was like, they're like, did you examine them? And I was like, I could not. I could not be in that room. It was so bad.
Putting it out there.
I was too weak.
What if T-Rex pee actually smells fucking fantastic?
It smells like apple juice.
Good point. Yeah.
Diabetic T-Rex. It actually is really nice and sweet. Yeah. He's actually been drinking. It's like Powerade.
No, I get that. Like, I obviously don't really have to deal with smells at my work. Well, there was that one time where we got the smell generator, but that's a different thing. But because I have like a really bad sense, or like almost no sense of smell, so it means my tolerance is really, really low. So when there is a bad smell, I just can't handle it.
Yeah,
because I don't smell 90% of the time. I'm just like those defenses just aren't built up.
Actually, you know what? There was a second time where it was in an operation, and the surgeon I was operating with had done like all this time in Haiti, just literally just washing out abscesses. Like that was like all he did, and we were washing out this abscess, and it was like you hear people explain like this, but it was like you like felt this smell hit you, like it was like stinging the eyes, like it was like unbelievable. And he just looked up at me and he was like, this is the worst thing that I've ever had to experience. And then they wanted to do, like, it was on a weekend, so everybody's sharing an operating theatre, and there was a Caesar afterwards, and we were like, you have to open another theatre. A baby cannot be born in this room. Like, it stank so bad. They actually closed it for the whole rest of the weekend. It was so bad.
Sounds like that famous Reddit story.
Yeah, it was very much like that. But see, that one, I was able to sort of just like dissociate and breathe through my mouth, even though breathing through your mouth is also gross. You don't have to smell it. But for some reason, this other one, I was like, I actually cannot be. Like, you've got your things you can put up with and your things you can't. So this kid obviously was able to put up with the T-Rex business.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how OP this kid is, but how it's like actually great?
Yeah, I thought it was fun too.
It's stupid, but I think I really like how, there's the whole thing. We know Alan doesn't like kids, but in this film, the vibe is very much Alan is just surrounded by idiots. Like, he is just surrounded by idiots, so, sort of bar Billy, until Billy turns out to also be an idiot. And this kid is like the only smart, sane person, and he actually clearly likes him.
Yeah,
it's sort of like a nice little twist.
Yeah. I
like
like
the only two. Yeah, he's the only one he gets along with, like, for real. Even Billy,
especially when he disses Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, whereas like Billy, I don't get the feeling Alan actually sort of likes him that much as a person. They're like work friends. You know what I mean? Like, they spend a lot of time together. But I don't know.
Billy.
Yeah.
They're like, he's like his mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like this kid is the first person in the movie you really see he actually kind of is on the same level as.
Yeah. I like that as a nice change. He's just like, oh, this kid is actually cool.
He gets it.
He's actually smart and useful.
Yeah, he's a useful kid. The first kid who has proven that kids can be useful to Alan Grant, and that's why he finally turns around on children, I guess.
This is not a Timmy.
Timmy fucking sucks.
So yeah, now they're in kind of two groups, with George of the Jungle and Alan Grant on one team and everyone else on the other team. And they finally reunite after being chased by more dinos and kind of continue to try and find their way to the coast.
Yeah, and this is the bit where the Spinosaurus has the phone in its stomach. And it's so
very good. Especially like how they lead it up. He's like, how did you find us? And he's like, oh, it was the jingle. I'd recognize it. He's like, but I don't have my phone. Like, oh no, I listened to Nash, that's his name.
Yeah.
And then just
well
comes right behind them. So good.
I'll never get over just the blank look on its face as it's just staring at them from like 10 meters behind them.
It's the way good. Lexi looks at her food.
So they're running from the Spinosaurus and they get away, and then they find their way into the pterodactyl cage, and Eric gets grabbed after being back with his parents for about 2 minutes. He gets kidnapped again.
And right after, his mum's like, I'm just going to leave you for 2 minutes. He's like, Mum, I've been here for 8 weeks by myself. I could last 2 minutes without you. Immediately get snatched.
Good stuff.
But again, I got to call this. This is another great reveal because something is up here.
Yeah.
But like the fog really sort of masks exactly what it is, and then the reveal that they're in the giant cage is just fantastic. Like, this movie knows how to create monster set pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then how they're sort of protected by the cages around the walkways. It makes it like believable that they're able to sort of run away from the dinosaurs, and helps with the make it an actually believable, good action scene.
Yeah.
I say believable. There is a part where Billy parachutes over to grab Eric, which is a bit silly, but it still rules. It's so good.
Just because you're not a badass, Billy is, so he was able to do it.
He does do it. And
Billy
Alan kicks a pterodactyl in the face, and it rules as well. Very cool.
Yeah. When he grabbed the hang glider, I was not expecting it to come back in so clutch, but it really does in this scene.
This movie actually, like, as much as will rag on it for being like the cornier and not as good as the first two ones, it hits all that script writing sort of 101 Chekhov's gun shit pretty well. Yeah. Like, the raptor vocalization 3D printer thing is actually the clutch thing that lets them get out at the end. Like, everything is set up with a purpose.
And there's a lot of them, like a lot of little things that come up later that are then relevant.
Well, yeah, like the phone being the primo example, but like,
the phone, the parachute, the velociraptor thing, the eggs, like there's so many things that.
Yeah, it does it simply and well.
Oh, the fact that that Mr. Kirby has been learning to swim and then he has to swim for safety. I think I always remember that because like Elliot probably has the same thing, but as somebody who like spent a lot of their teenage years trying to perfect their swimming form, people in movies are so fucking bad at swimming. Oh, yeah. I was like, your form is terrible.
I thought you were going to say, like, the thing I always get a bit of culture shock on, like, meeting people from overseas is how much rarer it is to learn swimming to the degree that we do here in Australia. Like, it's...
Yeah, people swim heaps here.
It's so ingrained in the... Like, everyone does not just learn to swim, but then, like, like a lot of sort of swimming.
There's a lot of people who do laps semi-regularly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Whereas, like, you go, like, even a place like America, and there's, like, it's not that hard to find, like, so, like, I counted this a lot in San Francisco. Like, you'd meet people, and they're like, I never, like, they can sort of swim, like, but it's like, it's more like our dad. Like, our dad can sort of swim, but he's not comfortable doing it. And that's just always been such an alien idea to me because, especially here in Australia, almost everyone is taught to get comfortable in the water at a very young age.
Yeah, like to the degree where, like, a lot of people I know who are very fit will be like, oh, I'm going to do a triathlon or I'm going to do an Ironman. And, like, they're not an especially good swimmer, but they can just sort of get in a pool and start doing some laps and their form is acceptable enough that they will be able to swim the 2K or whatever that they have to swim.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess we've got a pretty strong beach culture, I suppose, comparatively.
Yeah, that's probably it, isn't it? Because the beach is pretty scary if you can't swim. Like, but I went to Scotland for my elective, and my friend and I went swimming like about once or twice a week, and you just feel like an Olympian. Like, people literally look like they're fucking drowning, and they're at the pool doing laps, and they look like they're about to drown. And we're like, why that looks awful. Like, it looks so unenjoyable.
That's what I mean. Yeah, because it's not so much the learn to swim as like, that stage after learn to swim where it's like beginners squad type stuff. It's just a huge portion of Australian kids who get made to do that.
Yeah, like most people in Australia can not just swim, but swim for fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just and I guess it's like the beach culture is probably to blame, but it's interesting. It has permeated inland as well. Like, you will meet people from inland Australia and like, they've all done all the swimming stuff too.
Because I guess it's pool culture as well. Like, it's such a hot country that even if you go out, like, people are always swimming in like lakes and rivers. Like, swimming not just at the beach, but is such a huge part of Australian lifestyle. Like, and I mean, I think there was a big push, right? Like, the kids drowned all the time, and so there was a big push for learn to swim is a really big thing. And like, we think about at school, like we had to do swimming once a year. Like, everybody in the whole school for a week or two at the end of every year, we had to do like life saving.
Yeah. Like we had to get our bronze medallion in year 8, which was like involved swimming a kilometer, I think it was.
That's pretty involved. Yeah. But I guess you're from Armadale, so different.
Yeah, because there's like there's freshwater and salt, like, or beach ones. But yeah, we like had to do it at school, and then because a few of us got through it so quickly because we had to do it every year, then we had to teach people who couldn't swim. We had to teach them to swim.
Oh, that's so annoying.
I remember that. Yeah.
Well, it was actually kind of like, it was really interesting because as somebody who grew up in the water, like, I don't know, this is getting on a massive tangent, but the concept of buoyancy, like, these people had no concept of buoyancy. So, like, I remember spending an entire morning trying to teach a girl just to float on her back because she felt like she would just keep going, like that her head would just keep sinking. And it was sort of really interesting because I was like, yeah, I mean, if you've never experienced buoyancy before, like, your brain would have only experienced gravity and you would think that. It was super interesting. Anyway, she got there eventually.
Speaking of needing to learn to swim, the gang gets to the coast and get on a shitty old boat, and things are pretty safe, but then they get attacked by the aquatic Spinosaurus. And Alan gets a call through to Ellie Sattler just in time in this hilarious scene that is like cutting between the dino attack and the phone and the kid getting the phone to his mum. Like, that's going to actually save them. It was very silly.
Again, I love it. I see I'm stealing the notes that both of you are written too, but the fact that the kid gets distracted by Barney the dinosaur is a fucking great joke.
It's funny.
It is good.
And then like the phone is like sliding around and they're all trying to grab it frantically from inside the little cage they've locked themselves in. And then who would have thought locking yourself in a cage on a boat turns out to be maybe not the greatest idea because they end up underwater in a cage. And anyway.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Great scene.
Yeah. No, it's a good action scene. It's good times. William H. Macy has his hero moment. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, the crane is actually pretty cool. And and at first I was like, so Alan Grant shoots a flare at the dino and then it falls into the water and catches fire. And I was like, I might have not been watching closely enough. I assume there was a gas leak from the boat because I was like, why did this water just light on fire?
They say as they get in, Mr. Kirby goes, it's a full tank of gas.
Yeah.
And then, like, there is a shot of the Spinosaurus, like, crumpling the gas tank. And
I assumed I must have been writing notes or something when that happened. But because there was this second where I was like, why the fuck is this water on fire? And then I was like, probably gas.
Yeah, it's not really spelt out, but, like, it is one of those things where on a rewatch, you're like, oh, no, I see all the pieces here.
Yeah. And when I say gas, I mean oil because I understand that gas is something that is in the air.
I asked someone a few weeks ago about directions to a gas station, and they looked at me like I think they were confused because I said that without an American accent. I was like, "Oh my god, I've picked it up."
Yeah, that's true. We don't. You got to say, "Where's the servo?"
Yeah, or the petrol station.
What's a petrol station? Are you trying to say servo?
Yeah. No, I remember asking for a petrol station when I was in the US. And the person looked at me like they just gave me this blank stare. When I was like,
petroleum.
I was like, where's the petrol station? And they just looked at me like I was speaking in French.
Yeah.
And then I was like, sorry, yeah, the gas station. And I bought, and then you go there, and like it's still called petrol there, right? So it was like, it was a bit thing after. I was like, look,
obvious.
Okay, yeah, like I know I stuffed up, but like surely they could have put 2 and 2 together on that one.
Out,
like,
mate. Yeah,
like you know. I could have been the weirdo who called it the petrol station or whatever. Like, sure, I'll fully own that, but it was also like, it's the gas station where you go to get petrol. They should have been able to figure that out for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is where we kind of start to they start having all these like sweet shots of the Kirby family sitting together, and I'm like, it's really nice and all, but like they sacrificed 3 people's lives to achieve this, and it's hard to feel too
worth it
happy for them. Like obviously for them it's worth it, but as a viewer who is not a part of their family, I was like, it's like I don't know about the ethics surrounding that.
They were mercenaries. Their lives didn't matter.
Yeah, they shot a gun, so they're actually evil. Okay.
Yeah, they're baddies.
Well, and they didn't do a good job. So
true.
And
they were hired for were kind of going to be paid, but then wouldn't have actually ended up being paid, I guess.
Yeah, they might as well have died anyways.
Yeah. So Ellie ends up heeding the call, and as they get attacked by more dinos, the Navy and Marines come in to save the day, and also Billy's there, and also the relationship with the parents is saved.
We did kind of skip over the returning the eggs to the raptors. I'm obsessed with the raptors. I like that scene. I think it's like, I mean, we kind of already talked about it, but there's, for some reason, the Velociraptor mum assumes that Eric's mum has the eggs, which I think was just some, like a way of kind of, so she kind of passes the eggs back. And I think it was just like trying to be a sort of way of showing like, they're not so different.
I know. It feels like there's something there, but it's hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, I had to have a good think, and I felt like I was writing something in an HSC English essay. But I think that's what they were going for, is kind of like, they were both mums who were just trying to get their babies back, like is the whole
good point.
Film, like, they had the same arc.
Yeah, I'll give you an A- for that one.
Like, that's very American of you, Elliot. We mark out of 100 here in Australia. Come on.
I mean, you already used HSC English. Most of our audiences are going to know what that is.
They can Google it if they don't.
That's like the SATs, basically.
But I don't know what an A+ is. Is that a 90 out of 100?
I don't know. I have no fucking clue
nobody
about
knows.
maps.
It's meaningless to me.
Yeah, no, it is. Well, because what always confused me about the American system is then like F is fail, but for us, anything below 50 is fail. Is it the same over there? Does F represent half of the spectrum, and then all the other 5 letters and the pluses and minuses are like little tiny chunks? Anyway,
Yeah, and like,
and why is there no S rank in grades?
can you get it? Like, I know you can get an A or a B or a C or a D. Can you get an E?
I think so.
No, I don't think you can get an E. I think it's D and F.
Yeah, right.
Actually, no, E. E doesn't exist in America.
You know what I like about uni is when it's just pass fail.
Yeah, that was
Much
great.
nicer.
But you passed.
But this is like listening to Malia and Jenny in a recent episode of Power Reflections try to explain to Kipos how like the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior thing
I'll
works.
never understand that.
I don't even want to try. Like, so, I just don't care.
My college used it, so I understand, but just because they ripped it off like from Oxford too, which is what the American system did. But yeah, it's a stupid system, and it only makes sense to you if you've lived in it. It's not like junior is the second most senior one. It's fucking dumb.
Yeah, because I mean everybody knows what a freshman is.
Yeah,
and I guess I always assumed that senior was the last one.
Yeah,
sophomore is maybe second.
Yeah, it is, and then junior's third.
Right, because Americans use that in high school. Is that right?
Yeah, which is their equivalent of 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, right.
Because remember, they have middle schools.
Oh yeah.
Weird.
Okay.
So strange.
Which again, I also went to a place with a middle school. I'm just realizing I did a pseudo-American education.
Yeah, you did too. Because who was I talking to the other day? And I think in New Zealand they go up to year 13.
Yeah, because they count kindergarten as year 1.
Yeah, which makes more sense.
But then I think Western Australia only goes to year 11 because they have a year 0. Because they count like computer scientists, apparently.
Oh, I can't handle this. It's too much. Oh. Hey, can we talk about how at the end of this movie, after the day is all saved, the pterodactyls flying off has triumphant music over it rather than terrifying music? Because
it's kind of similar to how in the last film the little baby T-Rex getting its first kill was like had this beautiful like happy music over it.
But that one makes sense though, because we hated that guy. Yeah, this one, I agree with Reuben. It's like, wait, are we happy that these dinosaurs have escaped? This whole movie heavily established that dinosaurs are just feral monsters, genetic abominations, and we should be scared of them. And now it's like, but they're free, so that's good.
It's true. I think without a plot or anything in the film that kind of like these dinosaurs were not sort of humanized at all. Like the pterodactyls were just really scary and vicious. Even the baby ones like tore little chunks out of Eric. Like, can you imagine you look out your window one morning and you're like, these fucking pterodactyls.
Wow, that kookaburra is huge.
Yeah. Like, I calling into work. I cannot come to work today. There is a pterodactyl outside my house. It's like, it's not a magpie. This is a pterodactyl.
You'd have to send a photo.
Yeah, just leave your house in like a bicycle helmet with those little like sticks coming out of it that people use for magpies. Like, run to your
magpie helmet.
Hey, so how does Ellie have so much sway with the Navy and the Marines?
The Marines, yeah, God knows.
They make it out like you can just call the Marines and be like, you need to go to Costa Rica right now for my ex-boyfriend.
You know what they should have done?
Sorry, especially because the Kirbys couldn't get this to happen.
Yeah.
They should have just had her husband be in the military, right?
Doesn't she say he's working for the Defense Department?
Was that what it was?
She says he's working a new job at the start of the film, and I think it might have had the defense in it.
So I think that's the connection.
Okay,
yeah, that would make more sense.
I hope that's what it is, because that sort of really ties everything up together.
Yeah, because there's a little nicely. Like Eric just kind of says a line like she called the Navy and the Marines, and it's like, how? Do they have a hotline? And you just go, and she just goes, the river, site B, because that's all Alan told her. And they're like, no worries, fam, we're on it.
Yeah.
I don't like that Billy survived. I don't like heroic sacrifice is a dumb trope or whatever, but the ending to this film is like a little bit too just like, and everyone lived happily ever after. Like those 3 guys died, but we didn't care about them anyway. They were bad.
They had zero characterization.
everyone else is I suppose the delivery on Billy is what just kind of peeves me off, because he's very clearly left for dead, and then it's just like, oh, we just found him floating in the river and he's all good now. And it's like,
Also, we saw them like, I guess he got swept to an estuary and out to sea, because we see them come onto the island, but they already have Billy. I'm like, how is this possible?
But also, so he must have floated past where the Spinosaurus attacked them and everything, because that was all downriver. So, like, I mean,
he was ahead of them, though.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, I mean, there's very good odds that he like floated past in the background of that. So, I mean, we need to watch that scene closely. And his like unconscious body is just floating past in the background at one point.
Just like Aragorn. He's actually, this is just like J.R.R. Tolkien.
I was comparing it. I was trying to think of like the horror movie, because I think this is just a sort of mostly a horror movie. I was trying to like map a lot of the horror movie tropes to it. And what was funny about that is I'm pretty sure Alan would be like the final girl, like the virgin.
And
I just enjoy that comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I know. Yeah, so the ending's a bit too like everyone's happy. It's implied the parents are getting back together. Alan
Everything ends perfectly.
Yeah, Alan seems fine with things, which is also odd. Like everyone's just happier than they ought to be.
Especially after watching the pterodactyls fly in the same direction that they're flying.
People die, but no, it's all okay in the end. But yeah, I guess next month we'll be talking about Jurassic World.
Yeah, that is also the Christmas month. Do we want to put ourselves through the torture of doing the holiday special again, or are we giving ourselves the year off?
Oh, I'm happy either way. I have to. This year has flown. I feel like I just watched it.
Yeah,
it's really still in my head.
Yeah, I'm happy either way. I'm trying to think. Do we have any Christmas specials? Any other Christmas things that we'd talked about watching? I can't remember. I feel like there was something.
Yeah. Oh, there was the Christmas. There's also a holiday special for the Star Wars strip show.
Sorry, wait.
Whoa.
Is there?
Too many levels.
Yeah, I sent it to you guys on Facebook like 6 months ago.
Well, that's obviously long enough ago that it's been long scrubbed from my memory.
Elliot's just Googled Jurassic Park Christmas.
And what comes up?
Is Jurassic Park a Christmas movie?
Okay, so nothing comes up.
It just says, therefore, it's a Christmas film. Enjoy your day.
Jurassic World is set during Christmas. Oh, guys, we've just got so fucking lucky.
Freebie.
Is it really?
Apparently. That's according to this Reddit post, which,
Well, then somebody corrects. Technically, it's early January.
Nah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No. Cool. Yeah. It's within a week of Christmas. Fuck it. That counts for our Christmas theme.
That counts. Count it.
Yep. That sounds good.
Well, geez.
Next month, Jurassic World.
But can you click on that thing that says Jurassic Park Christmas Special 2018 on the Jurassic Park podcast? Or is that just a podcast?
Well, yeah. What are you talking about?
It was down. The video, that first video.
Oh,
that's just a podcast.
The Jurassic
is it?
Park podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Then don't click on it. Forget I said anything.
So go and check out the Jurassic Park podcast on all good podcasting apps now.
Sorry, I'm just listening to the Jurassic Park theme Christmas version.
Oh yeah,
epic Christmas version.
Save
by
it for
Orchestra Cinematique.
Yeah. So yeah, next month we'll be talking about Jurassic World. So thanks everyone for joining us, and hey, thanks for being a patron. If you are a patron, if you're not a patron, then you should be, because you'll get 6 months worth of extra episodes of this show.
Yes.
Christmas in July is not the same.
Although, it is closer to the official Jurassic Park holiday, July 6th Park.
Reuben loves that video.
It's a great video.
Cool. Well, should we do our signature outro?
Hell yeah.
Sure.
As we say every month, bye
hoy, listeners.
And get
out of our swamp. And also, no harm ever came from reading a book.
See, I knew Reuben was going to back out, so I did it. I knew it. I knew you would.
So I guess it's just a solo from now on. I will never back out of it. I will always do it.
I was just backing out so it was extra clear that Reuben was.
I like listening to it.
That's sort of adorable.
now, now, quick, quick, quick.